Welcome to the last session of Cyberselves, session number 10. It's been a while now, maybe like 3 months or so of this process. Thank you for everyone in the audience for making it through in such a short notice. I really, really appreciate it. And for all of the artists who are here, for all of the work that you've done, because we've been at this for a long time. Um, and for you, Anna and Mila, for helping me organize this. It's been really, really nice so far. So, without further ado, let me just run you really quickly over our agenda. We have a couple minutes of forwards where Anna will share a couple thoughts, so will I. Then we'll jump straight into our artist showcases. We have four artists today who will be sharing their process and results from the Cyberselves workshop. And then finally, we will have the rest of the time for Q&A. If there are any questions that you would like to raise for the people presenting, we can do so at the very end. So feel free to add your comments in the chat, and we will have Mila collecting them so we can run over them towards the end. So I'm gonna give the floor over to Anna now to share some thoughts about the Alusta platform. This is all yours.
Thank you, John, and hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have you all here. My name is Anna Puhakka, and I am the community manager for Alusta and work as a community producer for the Finnish National Gallery, for which Alusta is part of. And so, as many of you maybe who are know a little bit about Alusta, we organize a lot of open calls, and we've got workshops. And this has been our first sort of long form workshop that John has been running with some wonderful artists that you'll be hearing all about. Uh, all to do with also navigating your own cyber identity or internet based digital identity. And I'm really excited to be here. And thank you so much to all you artists for presenting today. And I hope to speak to you all soon. If you want, you can always contact me on the Discord. So I will get back to you as soon as I can. And I wish you everyone good luck today.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, let's jump in into talking a bit more about what this workshop was about. So, if this is the first time you're hearing about me, I have been a cybernaut for the last 25 years of my life. I am 25, so that you can make up the numbers there. I'm interested in everything to do with internet history, internet art, internet anthropology, you name it. It's kind of like my current obsession at the moment, and it's where I found a lot of the inspiration for this workshop. My work has covered mostly things within the design world, art history, and internet history more recently, as well as things in the social sciences. So I was approaching this subject with a bit of a mixed perspective, no? We are dealing with this new era of art history that is beginning, and it has been in the works for actually quite few decades now. I mean, it's since the early 90s if you start thinking about actual internet history. Um, it is only more recently that we move into this era of the internet that is full of um, like massive amounts of information and posting and media and market that all kind of just melt together into this melting pot of overwhelming absurdism is what we are going to call it. And so I had a few questions that I wanted to answer with a group of artists, which were mainly about exploring this new frontier of internet art. As I mentioned, internet art has existed for a while now, and the images you see on your screen right now are some examples of early internet art. We're talking from the 90s up until the 2010s. So it doesn't quite cover the 2020s yet, which is this new part we're going into. But I think there's a really interesting opportunity to really explore how this movement and this period of art history is developing. As we have seen, the beginning of the 2020s, we had the explosion of the NFTs as both a medium, a technology, and basically just a huge part of the art world kind of exists in there now, and um, had its own experience of its negative reputation as well. So there is a lot of really interesting questions to explore there about how artists are presenting themselves online and how we are able to experience, communicate, and show others what our experiences online have been like. Really thinking about this idea that like all of the work that we can create and post is loaded with some sort of ideological question behind it, and so I really wanted to invite people to think about their personalities online, their identities, and how the internet helps shape their own process as artists. There are very different ways in which we can experience the process of making art, and I think when we add the layer of internet, anything attached to it, it really twists into really very different, wonderful outcomes that you will see here today. Some of the main topics that we found ourselves sort of going back to again and again were these ideas of self identity, of anonymity, of anything that talks about the self per se. There have been other movements in internet art history that already try to explore this idea of how people portray themselves online, or how the internet portrays us in vice versa as well. Aside from the subjects of the identity of the self and my encouragement of helping these artists create a persona for themselves, we also explored other subjects like simply just the overwhelming amount of information that exists online, which I think is more in line with the early internet art movements that we have seen, which usually are a bit more punk or alternative in their execution. So internet art is from its beginning, from its conception, it is very anti-establishment in some sense because it is a new format, it's a new medium. So a lot of the ideas that were being shared were very much in line with earlier like Dadaist ideas or surrealist ideas, or if you think of like the more recent Zine or Zine movement that also deals with a lot of like how do we share information with others about subjects that aren't as readily available in the mainstream. There is a lot of different avenues that people are bringing into this subject, and I think this is really clear with the outcomes that the artists will be presenting here today. We have a very wide approach at different subjects, so I won't spoil any of those yet, but I am really excited to hear them talk about their own processes and for you to have a look at what the most recent internet art is looking like at the moment. So before I move on, just so you have a picture of the type of work that we have been doing for the last 3 months. We have had a couple of sessions on internet art history where we've had a deep dive into all of this history that I've been sharing with you for the last 5 minutes. We've had 2 or 3 sessions where we've had an opportunity to actually practice and explore and play around with these concepts of creating a self and exploring different mediums of that are present in internet art. And then we've had the opportunity as well to have several critique sessions where we've collaborated with each other and listened to our points of views and essentially just helped evolve and iterate our pieces. So the works that you're about to see today are these. It's basically like an open studio, so you're seeing work in progress, and these are basically just the experimentations of ideas that these artists have decided to work on. So nothing is extremely final per se. It's more just about sharing concepts and ideas. So without further ado, let's move on to our first artist. Each of them will have 5 minutes to present their artwork and talk about their art a little bit. And then after that, we will move on to the next artist. And by the end of the session, we will have the Q&A, as I mentioned before. So if you have any more questions, please just leave them in the chat. All right, let's move on to Domi. So, Domi, if you can take the stage, go ahead and we will listen to what you've got to say.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be here and to present. Thank you, Chase. Thank you, Anna, Mila, and everyone in the Luster community. So, I'm Dominic. I'm a visual artist from Germany, living in Finland, and I'm based in Helsinki. And I'm working mostly with photography and image-based techniques. And my work deals a lot with interspecies relationships and especially the connection of humans with other animals. So for my cyber project, I draw from experiences at a wildlife sanctuary in Bolivia. So I worked there as a photographer, artist, volunteer, and caretaker in the last year. And with Domi and the Leaves is sort of my digital handprint. And under this name, I mix these different mediums of my offline experiences and revisit them on my desktop. So I use the screen capture method to record it. And it's sort of a desktop performance. A desktop performance is when an artist uses their screen as a stage or as a canvas, working with files, images, and other digital elements. So I would like to present my work. Distances I only comprehend in screens and shadows. And it consists of a screen capture, desktop performance, and some thoughts and writing I will share along with it now. So yeah, I spent 3 months at a wildlife sanctuary, Ambuari. Before that, it was 3 months of dreaming and 3 months of planning until I got 3 months of living amongst everything that should be wild. But even when I was there, I spent so much time witnessing life through different lenses and different screens. And I took so many photos just to never look at them. Maybe that's why I miss the leaves the most and the walks with YY, who took me into the canopy of the night. After coming back from Bolivia, I spent the next 6 months avoiding to open a single folder. I felt my photos could not properly capture the way that leaves reflect the sun or the sensation you get whenever you hear something in the bushes. You never knew what animal it might be, if they will appear with wings or legs, if they come out jumping, crawling or slithering, and if you will be lucky or damned if you see them at all. But with YY, it was not so much about the things that eyes can see. He made me feel human in an animal world. Trying to understand the experience of other beings can very much feel like walking in the dark. However, YY, the night and her companions showed me this darkness is never empty. Night monkeys are easily frightened by daylight, yet their dark full moon eyes find companionship in the black of nights. YY was rescued as an infant from the illegal wildlife trade, unable to ever return to the wild and establish his own ways in the jungle. But still his tail is made to carry his branches, his hands and feet at home between the bark and the leaves. YY has grown used to the fact that every 2 or 3 months a new caretaker becomes his walker. Yet, since YY knows the jungle and the night better than any human ever could, it is often uncertain who is walking who. So when we climb the platform together, we enter 2 different worlds. His eyes are wide as the sky, soaking in everything the night can touch, reaching out into the darkness that defined his species, while I try to listen to a void no human can ever fully fathom. But there's a void inside me I'm slowly beginning to understand. Scientists call it species loneliness. For lack of work, and as one does, ask ChatGPT to explain it. Maybe it's not even ironic, just simply the state of our existence, that an AI chatbot delivers the definition of species loneliness. Species loneliness is a term that describes a sense of alienation or disconnection that humans may feel in relation to the natural world and other living species, It reflects a growing awareness that as humans, we are increasingly separate from other forms of life due to our technological advancements, urbanization, and the environmental degradation we have caused. I see my work as a plea for connection and understanding, maybe most artists. It is an attempt for myself to understand what kind of life we are living and the question how we should live it. The internet offers a myriad of possibilities to connect with each other, yet sometimes all I find is distances. Maybe the most beautiful thing about cyber art then is sharing our experiences and making them accessible to others, so we can try to make sense of it together. So that was me. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Domi. That was incredible. I think this works so much better with your voice on top of it as well. So for a first read, I think it was 10 out of 10. Yeah, super exciting to see how you've included some of the feedback that you got from the last sessions as well. So um, again, if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the chat. We will move on to our next artist now. We have Ria LF Ake.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our exhibit. I'd like to thank you, Alastar, Anna, Chase, and my fellow artists for the opportunity and the journey. It has been a blast. I've been a painter, very passionate about my painting, exploring the intersection of the body, the environment. My works have been exhibited at Sotheby's, New York, Saatchi Gallery in London, and the Art Oculus, among others. And today, I'd like to share and experiment with you some playful possibilities with the real, the fake, the cyber, and the flesh. Slide 2, please. The ideologies assumptions I've used for the real is from the ancient Chinese Taoism and the continental European philosopher Lacan. In the Taoist view, the real is very much a way of being, things that we do, and the eternal Tao is that which cannot be spoken of. This being outside of language is in alignment with Lacan. He posits that the real is symbolization, and it is tied to jouissance, the castration complex, and especially to the aggression of the death drive. Next slide, please. In essence, jouissance represents the excessive painful enjoyment tied to the real that the subject must give up to enter the symbolic, the language, and the culture. But it can continue to rupture influence and occasionally rupture the reality constructed by the symbolic and the imaginary. Next slide, please. The hour compositions. So I've used my physical paintings and AI art generated from a model created by my physical paintings and the creative use of prompts entered. As you could see with my next slide, the Massacre of the Innocents. And the next one is Resistability. And then after that, the AI art. So it is the mountain gorilla, and it is a surrogate for the Zhangzhi's butterfly, and also for the mirror image as the illusion of mere reflection of wholeness from the fragmentation, the fragmentary body that we are prior to the mirror stage. Next slide, please. The AI art cyberflesh function as the lack of castration complex, jouissance through the dash drive, desire, and the symbolic order. And the soundtracks I apply comprise of fetal heartbeat, adult heartbeat, gorilla, and the male out of breath. Next slide, please. So aesthetically, it is very much tied to the philosophies just outlined. The in conclusion is that it is unrepresentable visually, and it is irretrievable from the moment of entry to culture, language, and symbolization. Hence, the ontological and epistemological implication and constructions might be to use Plato's allegory and dialectic of the cave, the shadow, or the Taoist Zhuangzhi's butterfly. in Plato's case, where is the cave? Where is the shadow? Inside, outside, mutually exclusive, or implicitly implicated in one another. And for the Tao, the butterfly and us, where are we? Where is the butterfly? Again, mutually exclusive or implicitly implicated in one another. Thank you very much for your attention, and please enjoy my next 2 hours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Just as a content warning, there are loud noises and flashing images. You have been advised. All right.
Thank you, Chase.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you, everyone.
sharing. Amazing as well. And everyone has so far under your 5 minutes. I have to say, I'm really, really proud of that. Let's move on to our next artist. We have Madame Emoticon.
Hello, thank you very much. The exhibition title contains the phrase art in progress. So please let me tell you a few words about the progress of my artworks. You can see on the right side 2 examples of my initial experiment. During the Cyberselves workshop, I had so wonderfully by chairs. At one point, we received a task to create artworks based on screenshots. And you can see some of the examples of what I did. I created Instagram screenshots using certain hashtags such as art community or art. And I thought that it might be interesting to present this as compositions and the compositions as new works of art. Although clearly the original images were not created by me. However, some people raised concerns about potential copyright issues. So in the next slide, you can see the next step, my reaction to those conversations. As just put it, I vandalized my screen. So maybe I would say that out of reverence, I became pretty irreverent, and I scribbled over the images. As a next step, I even cut out the original images. Now, the present slide shows that in some cases I even commented on the pictures because it falls under the category of fair use. If you make comments on artworks, even if they were created by other people. And I thought maybe it would be a bit funny and also irreverent. I tried out several fonts when I wanted to write on the images, but I wasn't satisfied with the results. So eventually, I simply used the brush function, which enabled me to uglify, so to speak, my handwriting. And the result can be seen in the images. On the right side, I again created a version where I cut out the original images. So the right version can be used in itself, but in different backgrounds. I minted this on the Arista platform, the one without the original images. I went for safety in this regard. With all the images that I minted, I would like to add. And here I took inspiration from Richard Prince's New Portrait series, which I thought as a precedent for setting the price for Instagram art. Basically, what he did was that he copied images of women that were basically selfies, so usually selfies shared on the Instagram of women in suggestive poses, and he commented below the images as if he were creating Instagram posts. And it was a bit different concept. However, it was Instagram art too. And approximately 10 years ago, he sold them for $100,000 per piece. So I thought, well, that would be a good start. I also calculated with inflation, and that is how I arrived at the current price now. Now, on the next slide, you can see that I created a template, which I also minted. I created it for my personal use, but also the buyers of the NFT can vandalize my own artwork as well. You can see an example for it on the right side, where the scribble was done by my husband. In the next slide, you can see that I tried out another color with my own template. Now this is red. Now, part of what I like about technology today is that we can combine so easily different elements to arrive at whole new artworks. As a next step, I even added the F a letter to the hashtag art, which might not be so common coming from a woman. So this is the red series. And on the next slide, you can see that I also tried out pink. Now here, I took inspiration from the phenomenon of pink tags, which you might have already heard of. This refers to gender-based price disparities, and the name stems from the observation that pink products tend to be more expensive than those marketed towards men, which usually have different colors. Now, in a nutshell, I read the Wikipedia entry on the subject, and they mentioned that in the UK, women and girls are being charged on average 37% more for toys, cosmetics, and clothes than the male counterpart. And I thought sounded pretty well because I could present this as a kind of toy. So I decided to offer a 37% higher price for my artworks featuring pink vandalism than for the rest. I consider these price differences and calculation part of the series of the artworks. And I think that now what remains for me is to say thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. All right. We are doing great with time, so let me just remind you again, if there's anyone else who has joined recently, you can leave your messages in the chat, and we will have a Q&A towards the end of the session. Let's continue with our next artist now. Mind Eye.
Hello. I wanted to thank you all for coming, and thank you for organizing this and making it such a great experience for us all, and to let us meet here. And my name is Mind Eye, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I'm based in Helsinki. And these days, I'm taken with AI and everything digital, and I like to explore these realms with an existential lens. And today I'll be sharing a piece from my work in progress project, Sisypha, with an ad at the end, which was fully inspired by our work here. So thank you again for that. And Sisypha reimagines the myth of Sisyphus, who was condemned to internally push a boulder uphill and watch it roll back down each time. So It's about futile labor. And this myth, it echoes our experience of social media today. And just like Sisyphus, we scroll, consume, engage, and then repeat it all again. And we initially turned to it for connection, knowledge, validation, and joy. And we do get it, but in overwhelming amounts and in all forms of human and even non-human experience. And through this project, I wanted to explore the push and pull between the absurdity and the meaning of this persistent action of ours. And I will now show you a piece called Rise and Slide. It's 3 minutes long, and sound is really important in it. So I encourage you to use earphones if they're available, and maybe even adjust the volume of the stream if needed. And be careful with the volume. It's a bit intense sound, but it's really important that you experience the texture of it. And this work is presented as an iconostasis. And iconostasis is a screen or a wall used as a focal point for prayer in Eastern Orthodox churches. And it is also a separation between the earthly and the divine. And I will have 5 screens, and we will see 5 Sisyphus in each of them, striving to ascend or reach another place. And they're consumed with tension, but it also looks like they're perhaps even enjoying the process. And the images were created in collaboration with AI, used or edited. I used several tools to edit them. And music was composed by my friend Ed Strix, also with collaboration with AI. And then the sound design was played through different open windows in real time and recorded on my laptop, on my iPhone screen, just in a process of scrolling and, being there in social media. So I hope you enjoy. Here it is.
The cortisol pulse is naturally entrained by these genetic programs to happen once every 24 hours, but light will anchor it to the period where you see bright light. A late shifted cortisol pulse is a key.
October 1st.
How do you do with anxiety?
Creo que la impunidad por la que ronda el gobierno actual
Thank you, Mindai. Um, wow. Okay, so that is the four artists that we have showcasing today. Thank you again for the four of you for making it through the course. So cool to see your results. We now have time for a little Q&A. So if Mila, you can go through any comments that there are, if there are any, and we can give the space to the artists to reply.
No comments out there right now, just a lot of compliments and admiration
Compliments.
for the works. Yeah.
Okay, well that's good. I actually can't read any of the comments right now because I have my screen shared. Um, but that's good to know that there are some messages at least. I guess we can give a couple of minutes to the audience if there's anything else that you would like to add before we
I
wrap
don't.
up.
I would actually love to hear from you, artists. How have you found this experience, sort of delving into your cyber selves and thinking about your work from slightly different perspectives? This is to all of you.
Well, speaking for myself, this has been a wonderful experience and very inspiring and very useful. Um, this Cyberselves workshop inspired me uh, to try different directions that I wouldn't have um, tried, perhaps, most probably, without it. And I am extremely grateful uh, for the entire experience. This was very useful. And we were also inspired and motivated to write manifestos. Now we didn't have time to present them too, but yeah, I just wanted to add that in several ways. It was very motivating. So thank you again.
That's great to hear. You're so welcome.
I just wanted to add about manifesto. Besides that, every meeting was really, really inspiring and useful, and it lingered all the thoughts lingered with you and brought real depth to what I'm doing and even meaning and search for meaning. And yeah, about manifesto, it was such a good. What is it? It's great that we tried to write them. I didn't write mine completely. It's not finished, but I'm going to do it, and it even inspired like a completely different kind of work. So it's going to be done at some point. So thank you for this.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait to see that next iteration of your work. Definitely already. I think we had so many cool. I mean, considering like what I originally knew about some of your work and the work that you allowed yourselves to experiment during this workshop, I think that's already such a cool like point of different point to experience. Um, because I think coming into this workshop we had like very different ideas of what internet art and identities were. And we are coming out on the other side, we having constructed some really interesting personas. Um, and yeah, that already has just been such an interesting process to witness through all of you and your different processes as well.
There's a couple of questions that have come through on the chat. I thought I might read them out. Kisaria has asked, as a collective or individual, where do you see your practice evolving further into the digital art practice? And where do you look to present or display more of your pieces in the future?
Hmm. I think if I can answer for myself there, and I would encourage anyone else that wants to chip in as well. I think, well, first of all, Alusta obviously has been a really interesting space to start exploring that. I think the level of engagement that you guys generate on Instagram makes it really uh, like encouraging as an artist to post and to like engage with the open calls that you have, and there are so many that you're doing, and you have had these like in-person exhibits as well, which I think is something that is slightly different from the other digital art spaces that I have seen, especially related to the NFT community, as they oftentimes just stick to like a faceless online space rather than like something that is a bit more personal. Um, so I think like on an individual level, I would say something like that. And as a collective, then creating these sort of events where you can collect a few different artists and offer some sort of space for people to come in and talk to and experience artists without having to leave their home is already like an incredibly powerful um, offering to have, I think.
Well, I can add. Um, I was actually thinking about, and I know it's a bit like we're taking something traditional and bringing it to the internet, and I know it's been done, but I have seen really great cases of online exhibitions within a virtual space. I mean, like it looks like a real space, and I actually see how we can use. The use of sound and the use of mm, like it's not really physical, yeah. So we can explore the possibilities of that, and I've seen a good cases. So I really actually this project that I was working on, this Sisyphov project, I was actually thinking about making a virtual exhibition, and sounds interesting to just explore how it could work and how different could it be from the physical one.
Yeah, totally. I think there are some really interesting tools out there, and I would also encourage you to explore with tools that aren't built for exhibits per se, because I feel like that in those spaces you can find some really interesting ways that you can manipulate that experience.
Mhm.
I've had that experience before of like using perhaps like video games or other platforms that aren't really built for you to do that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but you can still twist it in that way. um, and I think those spaces already come with such a pre-cooked environment and aesthetic to it that it can really add an interesting filter to it. Sometimes the online gallery spaces are a bit too like sterile and clinical, in my
Mhm.
opinion. You kind of need to have like the UI and all of the login experience to exist around that, and also sometimes it's just a matter of having people there as well. Like if you go to a place that already exists where there's already people using that platform, then you are essentially cutting any upfront cost of onboarding because people are already there. Bring the art to them.
Mhm. Yes.
We use.
There's also been one more question that's come up. There's a question that says, what are some ways to mix digital art with traditional art? And I'm going to sort of like throw this question out to say, Domi, because you haven't had a chance to talk. What are your thoughts on the subject?
I was thinking with especially mind eyes work, how cool it would be to bring it from the internet into like the physical world, and maybe also interrupting like public spaces that are traditionally used for like billboards and things. But I think I would love to see that like on big screens. Of course, that could also work well in galleries. So I think there's like good ways to have like this maybe traditional ways of displaying art, or even like contemporary ways of this internet art. Also, Kevin's work, I think, would be really nice. I think it's great to explore like the internet art privately on your own screen, but then there's also something about like going out and experience it together with people, and I think that chance is still great in like public spaces or galleries.
If I can add to that as well, there is, I think, a good recent example is the Combine 24 exhibit that Alustau has been building, where it kind of is on the other side of the spectrum, where it's bringing physical art into the digital space. I would recommend checking them out as an answer to that question, since it deals with this idea of like utilizing loads of like pre-existing physical artwork and bringing that into the digital space. Reminds me a lot of collaging in some sense as well. I feel like collage is a good example of mixing like very contrasting types of art mediums that have and because it is a medium that has existed for a while, I think it's also a good example of how some of the like uh, practices or processes that you can experiment with when it comes to internet art aren't necessarily like new to the art world per se. Like digital collaging is the same as regular collaging in the sense that you are already using processes or like sources of images that already exist. It's just in that you're producing them within a different um, like system, if that makes sense.
We have one more question that's come.
Amazing.
Do you think that being online artists, we have more capacity for expression? I feel like it's a freer place. How do you feel about that topic, and how it was your experience?
Hmm. Um, well, I will let the artist answer first before I take the floor. But if anyone else wants a chance to answer to that, please go ahead.
I would say it is a freer space, but not necessarily gives more capacity for expression. It can also be limiting. If you think of posting works on social media, you have to adapt to a certain way of what you can post, and also having like a more people maybe see it can also feel like a danger that you are becoming more trying to comfort those people and get more likes and more views, and instead of like staying true to yourself or expressing it the way you want, it's more difficult than I think to do that. So there's also like this danger, online art, and it's your freedom, but not quite as limitless maybe.
True. I think that's a really good point to raise because there is um, like when the most of the internet art that you will come across with will be things that successfully make it through the mainstream. And as Domi said, when you are operating within any sort of social media platform, you have all of these limits that you have to like work within. So I think that's where the like being conscious or aware of the beginnings of internet art comes in useful because there is a lot of, or I guess originally a lot of that art that was being produced was existing within communities that weren't completely available for everyone, or that they just simply weren't mainstream because the internet at the time wasn't at that stage. And so it operated in a much more underground word of mouth way. And I think that can change. Like, I don't think we have that as much nowadays, or maybe it's just one of those cases where because everything is so visible that those underground tight knit communities are simply just completely like out of the radar and very private. So they might exist, we just don't know about them yet.
Wonderful. I think we have time maybe for one last question. We have one that is, how far out in time do you as artists think that the digital art practice would move away from the cryptocurrency value and into a more tangible, less volatile value? It's a good question.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I think we've already seen some of that change because if you compare it to the beginning of the 2020s when cryptocurrency was like really dominating the scene of internet art, comparing that to today, like we have already seen a huge shift on how people attach those meanings. Like maybe 2020 to 2022 was where internet art was most attached to the idea of the cryptocurrency and also specifically like the profile picture projects. But I think now we are seeing more of these like um, less mainstream crypto platforms that still internet art in cryptocurrency in some sense, but they have a larger focus on like curating and creating stages for smaller artists. So I don't know if we will ever see a full separation of the two. But I mean, I know that there are internet artists that aren't interested in cryptocurrency whatsoever. But I think it will just continue to be one of those like options for artists out there, simply because of the technological benefits that it offers some of us. Especially when you think that there are some artists that are already experimenting with smart contracts as a part of like a key element in their art. Um, but I don't think it's a full restriction that like all internet art has to be embedded with this software, or that it has to be like fully removed. It is just a tool that people can use to extend the process of their art, I think. Definitely closer to a more serious conversation about the cultural impact of internet art than we were before, because I think before it was a lot more sensationalized, and the conversation was more focused on the financial side of these like communities that were very much just about the pump and dump mentality.
Thank you very much. I think we've come to, it's 7 o'clock here in Finland now.